if you haven't been following, was it last week? I think it was last week. I had one of Trump's co-defendants, Harrison Floyd, on the show for an interview, and it was a last-minute interview. You guys, literally, I reached out, and it was like, we need to do it tomorrow at noon. I was like, fine, let's go. So we did that interview, and then some bombshell information came out. Harrison, if you're not following him on Twitter, you need to. If you just want to stay in the know of what's going on with this whole Fani Willis Trump election interference case and all the multitudes of co-defendants and the Ashley Merchant and Scott McAfee, like that whole, I feel like I'm watching a soap opera, right? But if you're not following Harrison on Twitter, you should, because he dropped a couple of days ago that DA Fani Willis had until Monday to recuse herself from the election interference case. And if not, he was like, listen, and I quote loosely, I don't want to have to put a Black woman in jail, but I will have to do what I have to do because you know what you're doing is not right. So I'm going to bring you guys up to speed on that. Go to his Twitter, Harrison Floyd. He is like never scared because he's tweeting and he's tweeting, okay? Like you just need to, sometimes you got to read between the lines, and sometimes he's just coming out and he is swinging and he is not holding back. And I actually like that. I like to see American patriots, particularly males, who will stand up for what they believe in and who will not back down. They are not going to be cowardly. They're not going to, well, no. You don't have to be a jerk about it, but some of these things we have to fight back. Like the nation is on the verge of collapse. And right now we are seeing warfare. Our legal system, our judicial system that is supposed to be impartial and is supposed to enact justice. What we are seeing is something different. We are seeing lawfare, where the judicial system is being used and weaponized against political opponents. And to be fair, whether you are on the right or the left, this whole case should bother you. Like if I was a leftist, I would still feel some sort of kind of way because the thing is, if they will do it to one group, do not be deceived and do not be naive. They'll do it on the other side as well. And so just to keep everything above board, we need to have transparency and honesty, and we need to have prosecutors who are doing their job and upholding the law and not on a power trip and not making it their business to go after one in particular individual. And what we're noticing is that some individuals in our judicial system are making it a career move to go after one person in particular, and they are stopping at nothing. And so, what I want to do is I'm going to play a message from Harrison Floyd and let him tell you in his own words what is going on and what his plans are. So, you guys take a listen at this.
Last week, my attorney and I made it public that District Attorney Willis very likely violated the Maryland Wiretapping Act, which is a felony here in Maryland. As far as we are aware, DA Willis did not have a warrant, and the call was not made in furtherance of law enforcement because I was already in custody. She simply broke the law. The truth is, DA Willis did not like the public backlash she was receiving, and over the course of multiple calls, she tried to find a way out of the mess that she created. She also made the claim that I denied a consent bond, which is a lie. The truth is simple and quite frankly sad. DA Willis is blinded by her upbringing, which was deeply rooted in radical progressive ideology and racism. She has no problem weaponizing her skin or her office to further its aims. While my skin is also black, D.A. Willis identifies me as white and views me as a defender of white supremacists due to my political beliefs. Deep down, she wants to make me pay for what she feels is a betrayal to black culture. Her words and actions consistently demonstrate a hate for white people and a need to make this case about race. She has disrespected Judge McAfee and defense attorneys because of the color of their skin. It's racist and it's wrong. After my attorneys finish working on the appeal Judge McAfee granted, we will bring a motion asking the court to exercise its judicial power on equal protection grounds. Because racism, in any form, is wrong. I, along with a lot of you, would like a speedy resolution. However, this is more than likely going to take time due to the district attorney's unprofessional, overly aggressive, and untruthful nature. Let me be clear that this is not an effort to delay justice or attack the district attorney because of her race or sex. It's because she actually broke the law in the same manner she's falsely accusing me of. Thank you, and I will see you back in Georgia.
Awesome. So that was Trump co-defendant Harrison Floyd, who, yes, was on the show what day of the week was that? Was it Thursday? Wednesday? Don't give me the line. I don't know. Go back into the archives. You'll see it. It's not that far down. But there's so many more questions. I wish I would have asked Harrison. But here in this video that he placed on his Twitter, he basically, before that, he had put a Twitter post up. He posted on the 8th that he had intended to file a legal action against DA Fani Willis. Before I say that, let me say this. One thing I am noticing as a common thread in this entire election interference case is the sloppy prosecution, meaning a lot of mistakes are being made that even a first year law student would be very, very careful and not do, or a junior associate. These are just moves in the way she's navigating this whole situation. It's in a very novice, well, we already know, unprofessional. She demonstrated that with her actions and her performance in the courtroom that day. But she's making a lot of mistakes that, quite frankly, are placing how is it worded, the odor of mendacity around this whole case. And one of those is something that Harrison brought up, and it's she recorded a phone conversation between his attorney and, I'm assuming, herself, without consent. And so, if you are familiar with our FCC laws, there are laws that govern, wiretapping rules and recording of phone conversations. And, like, for example, Georgia's a one-party state, so you only need one person's consent in the state of Georgia to record a phone call. So, for example, if you call me and I want to record a phone call, I don't need you to give me permission to do that, as long as you're in a state that's also a one-party state. However, this phone call took place with an individual who was in the state of Maryland, and Maryland requires two-party consent. And so that is a major issue. And according to what Harrison is saying, he's like, listen, you know, he believes, based on his admission in this video, that there are multiple issues at work, not just this whole her recording the phone conversation without the consent, but he is saying that what is happening to him is motivated by race, and it's not racism as it relates to black and white. That's not it. If you notice, Harrison is a black man, right? What you need to understand, and I understand what he's saying when he says this, if you look into her background, Fani Willis was raised by her father, who was in the Black Panther Party. So there are heavy overtones of Marxism and just progressivism and power to the people. And if you're not on the right side of the blackness, then you're not black, is what I am ascertaining that he is trying to say. And the fact that he is a black man and he holds conservative views and he supported Trump, it sounded, you tell me, you guys, it sounded to me as if he was implying that because he wasn't the right kind of black folk, she wants to make him pay. She wants to obviously silence him because how dare you be a black man and have an opposing viewpoint other than the prevailing narrative that you're supposed to have when you're black? Because don't y'all know we all think alike? Now, I know they say we all look alike, but y'all didn't know. I know y'all don't think this way, but there is a sentiment within, I like to call the skin trading, the pro blackity black community, that we all have to think the same way. We have to advocate and believe the same things. We literally need to be carbon copies of one another, and you're not allowed to have an independent thought. And if you do, you better keep it to yourself because we got to stay on code. Well, Harrison strikes me as an individual that he marches to the beat of his own drum. He is a patriot. He is a military veteran, and his values aligned with the policies that the former commander in chief, President Donald J. Trump, was promoting. So is he not free to think for himself and want to support the candidate that he wants to support? But now that that candidate was questioning the outcome of an election, and he's not the only one. It was a whole lot of us down here in Georgia. I remember we were like, the devil done came down to Fulton County. It was a mess back in 2020. It was a mess. And so for a president to actually question the outcome of an election when there were so many obvious evidences of irregularities, you should be able to push back and question the election. Well, that's where Harrison messed up because he black, and you're not supposed to do that. And so he believes that she is using her position, her influence, her power, and her office as a state prosecutor or use lawfare against him to silence him and make him be quiet. Or perhaps allegedly she might be trying to get him to cop up a deal. We'll just plead and admit that you at least did this, and then maybe I'll let you go. Isn't it interesting though? How Fani would say, I'm not gonna emasculate a black man. And yet she's always finding herself in these positions where she's emasculating a black man. Now, me personally, I would have loved to leave race out of this entire discussion. But if you notice, it's always the skin traders, the race traders, they are always the ones who bring race into the discussion. Instead of you being a prosecutor and you just prosecuting the crime, she chose to go into the church and bring up race. She chose to go in the courtroom during the hearing and bring up race. It's like these people eat, breathe, drink, sleep. They're just bathing in the blackness. And it clouds their judgment and their ability to be impartial because they literally view the world and everything in it from that lens. I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to listen to her Women's Day speech, but when I listened to it, I was just like, it it did disgust me. But then as a Christian, there was a part of me that was like, this is a level of just spiritual darkness and blindness that only the Lord can pull you out of that, because it's such a weight of heaviness, and it's such a spirit of hatred. These people have a hatred in their heart for those who don't look like them, that they actually exude, in my opinion, a level of black supremacy. So they're always fighting against white supremacy, but then when you listen to them talk, you're like, well, what's the difference between what you're saying is the threat and then the rhetoric that comes out of your mouth? So it's a combination of Black supremacy and then a heavy emphasis on feminism and women's empowerment. And you guys, both of those, in my opinion, those are from Satan. Those are from the pit of hell. Because the idea that, you know, if you want anything done in terms of progress and growth and change, that it must start with a woman, which is something that she said in that speech. I was like, this is why. And if you notice, in so many aspects of our government, why is it all of these women that are in charge and they're at the helm? It is almost like they are literally ushering in our demise, and we're allowing them to do it because it's like, well, they are Black and they are a woman. And so we have to give them this position and this role, and we have to place them there. But you guys, look what's happening based on the kind of women that they're putting in these roles and positions. I'm not saying that it is improper to place a Black woman in a position of power. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the ones that they are placing in power have some serious character issues, moral issues. Like, these are just not good people. These women are narcissistic, vindictive, they're conniving, they are not looking out for the best interest of the people. They are very self-serving, they are entitled. Like, this is not good. And I blame this whole situation probably on the overemphasis of DEI. That is, I need to call it DIE, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. It just needs to die, because what's going to happen is that whole system is going to implode upon itself. Eventually, you're going to have one intersectionality group and another intersectionality group, and they're going to clash. And then they're not going to be able to figure out, well, who wins in this situation, right? Because eventually the sexually perverse and the ones who are using or weaponizing their ethnicity and their gender, those two groups are going to clash. And my question is, well, what do we pick? Maybe it's just me. If we just focused on merit and skill set, what do you have the ability to do? Do you know how to do the job? Can you do it well? Can you just appeal to an objective standard of what is right and what is wrong and just do your job? Why do we have to check all these other boxes to determine if someone should be placed in a position or not? So overall, it looks like Harrison is not playing any games here. And right now, he is going to there's a motion to be filed. And I am just interested to see how this is all going to play out. But I want to show you this other clip to perhaps give you a little bit more insight as to what is happening. Take a look. Nope, not that one.
Want to put a Black woman in jail, but if Fani Willis does not recuse herself from this case by noon on Monday, I may have no other choice than to pursue all lawful remedies. Make Fulton great again. Mr. Floyd has accused Fani Willis of illegally recording phone calls she had with Floyd's attorney, and he says that it is time for Fani to be held accountable. Harrison Floyd joins us now. Harrison, great to see you. Tell us, if you would, about your move to kick Fani off the case, and do you have our attention?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on again. First, let me just ask a quick question. Have you guys heard District Willis's response to the wiretapping allegations?
Tell us.
No.
No, you haven't. You know why? Because she knows that anything she says can and will be used against her in a court of law. And it's not just about her, it's also the other people who she has conspired with. And this isn't just about holding her accountable. This is also about corruption and exposing her and others, everyone who she's colluded with.
You guys, did y'all catch that? When Harrison mentions that this is not just about her, but it's about others that she has conspired and colluded with. Who do you think that he might be referencing? Now, he hasn't said it, but I'm just curious to know from you guys. Type in the chat if you have a feeling who Harrison might be referring to. Because here's what we know. We do know at one point that DA Fani Willis made a visit or two or three, I don't know, to the White House, right? And we know that a fellow alum of Howard University is the second, do you call it commander, commandstress, whatever she is, Kamala is the VP. We know that she met with her. We know that the Biden administration, they have their hands and their little tentacles all up and through this case. And so when Harrison says, we're not just looking to hold her accountable, but we're looking to hold others that she has colluded and conspired with accountable, who do you think that he is referring to? Some people are saying Uncle Joe. Claudette says VP. Carol says the White House. I'm with you guys. I am, you know, Shara, I like the way you talk, girl. She says the Biden crime family. Hey, that's an appropriate term. And Eric says Cackle Harris, or as affectionately known as Heels Up Harris. I know. Well, I am interested in hearing what you guys think. And so I'm glad that you put that down in the chat, because that is along the lines of what I was thinking. So I just wanted to highlight that, because he said it in passing and they didn't really bite and press further. They kind of just let him say it. So let's let him finish.
From Georgia and here in Maryland, and we are going to pursue all lawful remedies, and she will be held accountable.
Harrison, what's the timeline on this exactly? How long could this potentially, not I don't want to say drag out, because that has a negative connotation, but maybe a good connotation, because if it drags out, clearly she could be potentially held accountable here, and this trial may never get going.
Well, I'm not interested in delaying the trial at all. I know the facts are on my side, and she's not going to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that I did anything wrong. So, I'm happy with going to trial, especially with her. Sunlight is always the best disinfectant. And there's a lot to unravel here. So this is coming out slowly but surely. Last time I was on with you guys, I said, hey, I have evidence, and I believe that, that there was interference in the election. There's a cover-up, and I will be unveiling it soon. And a lot of people laughed and joked, and then a week later, here we are. People aren't laughing so much anymore, and the district attorney sure seems to want to be quiet about not only talking about this wiretapping, but also discussing racism.
Earlier this month, you posted this on X. It said, I believe we have evidence that demonstrates a coordinated effort to cover up election fraud during the 2020 election in Georgia. I am prepared to turn over supporting documents and testify before Congress. Have you been working with Congress on this, as you posted on X?
I have been up to the Hill on several occasions, and I've spoken to both members and committees.
So you guys, when Harrison says that, he's prepared to testify before Congress, that sounded promising, and it felt as if, we might get some sort of resolution. But I'm going to say I'm not that confident, not in him. And I'm curious to know what you guys think about it, because Congress, particularly on the right, they have been incredibly weak with very little backbone to do anything. They love having hearings. They love having people testify, and they love pressing these questions, and they love their speeches and their grandstanding. And then what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing ever happens. Very rarely have we ever seen in the past 8 to 10 years anyone, has anyone been held accountable since Watergate? I know that was a really long time. I don't think anyone has been really held accountable for their crimes. They're crimes against the American people, we the people. No one ever gets held accountable. They just have a hearing and, you get, Hillary, she's still out free, often people in her way. Biden is still out free. No one, Obama is, no one is ever held accountable for any of the Bush. Don't sleep. I'm a conservative, but listen, there is so much corruption and swampness in our country that the American people do not have confidence that anything is ever going to be done. Why? Because you have this elite ruling class, the globalists. They're the ones running everything. And all of what we see in Congress, a lot of that is just theater. It's just puppetry. It's just theater and it's puppetry. And that's why, as much as I want to believe what he is saying, that I'm going to turn these documents over to Congress, which I know he probably will, and he's doing so in good faith. I don't doubt that. This man's life is on the line. So I don't doubt that his willingness to do that and cooperate is not being done in good faith. My issue is, then what? What you gonna do? What you gonna do, Jim Jordan? What you gonna do? Like, all of you, what are y'all going to do? Because I'm tired of the elite class, the donor class, the side of the right that loves everything just the way it is. Let's just keep the status quo. I am tired of them allowing this corruption to take place and doing nothing about it. But I have a theory. I have a theory that the reason why they don't do anything about it is because they're complicit. They're complicit and they are equally guilty, maybe in a different way, but they've got blood on their hands too. And so that's why they want the status quo to remain the way that it is. And they could care less about election interference, because when it's their turn, for an election, they're going to need the same tactics done, to maybe overturn an election in their favor. This is why in our state, I have questions about the Secretary of State. I sure do, Brad Raffensperger. I have questions about our governor, as much as I respect what he did during COVID and opening up our state and allowing commerce to thrive again. I have questions. I do. Have lots of questions that I may not be able to ask here on the YouTube, but I have questions. So let's let Harrison finish this segment, then we'll talk about it a little more.
So
All
I guess
right.
the answer is
Well,
yes.
and what's come of that? What can you tell us? Are they how receptive are they?
Very receptive. When I spoke, they were in recess, which was great because there weren't a lot of people around. They're getting back now, so decisions are being made, the ball is being moving, and I'm going to participate and help add value in any way that I can.
Harrison, the last time you joined us, you described an encounter you had with the FBI that led to your arrest. What's the latest on this? Because the way this went down was just atrocious. Have you heard any movement on this, or is there anything to be done at this point?
Yes, I have. Very little movement. This has just been sitting around since, it's been over a year now. How often do courts and prosecutors sit on a simple assault charge? This goes further into this coordinated effort and this cover up. This Rico case is trying to cover up the cover up, right? It's their second swing at it. And I'm demonstrating, and I will show that there is a clear, currently active effort to cover up fraud that took place in the 2020 election. And from serving in the Marine Corps, you always run things up the chain of command. And so I'm going to make sure everyone gets a full opportunity to display their talents and show whether or not they are contributing to this effort or not.
Harrison, tell us about your effort to fight the lawfare.
before he talks about his effort to fight the lawfare, you guys, did y'all hear him say that the Georgia Rico case is the cover up of the cover up? I was like, ooh, Harrison, that was good. I was like, that was good. When you think about it, let's just think about it. Let's set up our own hypothetical theory about the Rico case being the cover up of the cover up, right? So let's recount what we know. I'm here in Georgia, and I have a really good memory about what was happening during that 2020 election cycle. We remember there was a situation at the State Farm Arena where the counting kind of stopped because there was like this leak, right? This leak that no one can seem to find the maintenance requests for or things like that. But anyway, there was this leak allegedly that they say, and then the counting just stopped. And then when the counting stopped, the footage that emerged of these individuals with these suitcases just pulling them out just after everybody else was told to go home. They're just pulling out these suitcases with what looked like ballots. Well, now those got there. Pull out the ballots. And then, when we all were tired and growing weary from the count that seemed like it was never going to end, Trump was up. You woke up that next morning, and then all of a sudden it's like, where did all those votes come from? They just manifested. I mean, I know the Black girl magics do a lot of manifesting, but I was like, that's a new level of manifestation. These votes just manifested out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, Trump wasn't ahead anymore. And then it's like, yeah, we're gonna call Georgia. We're just gonna call it. Yeah. 11,000 votes. 11,000. That's pretty tight. 11,000 votes. So that's what we know. We also know that in other counties in this state, there was some shenanigans going on. I know in DeKalb County there were a lot of issues. A lot of issues at the time I was living in DeKalb County. So much so that weeks after the election, I volunteered to help adjudicate some ballots. And the way I was treated, you guys, that's when I realized I was like, you know what? We're in the belly of the beast. I volunteered to adjudicate ballots in my county as a representative of the GOP. And I showed up and I was treated with grave hostility. Grave hostility. Once they assume, when you walk in and you're Black, right? They just assume. You know how they assume because, we all the same. But when I had to check in and indicate that I was not a Democrat, oh, the whole interaction changed. And all of a sudden now, oh, we don't have you on the list. Really? Well, I'm sure you do. My name was submitted and it was approved days before. It's just not there now. And and then you had there was some sister girls rolling their eyes, and it was just a mess. Now that doesn't bother me. I don't care how you act toward me because you're making an assumption of who you think I am based on a political affiliation. My issue was with the process of the adjudication of the ballots. The way it was supposed to work, one representative from one party and another representative from the other party were supposed to sit down together at a station, and the ballots would get pulled up, and then together you were supposed to determine who the mark on the ballot was for. And if it was unclear, you had to throw it out. So if it was for Trump, you would note that. If it was for Biden, you would note that. But you guys, this whole process was almost as if I didn't feel like I was at an official county or government proceeding. This process, the way it worked, it looked like something my 12-year-olds would have devised. It was so unorganized. And then the ballots would the machines are down now. So there are no ballots to come up. And so you spent most of the day just sitting there just waiting for ballots to come up, just sitting there looking, waiting for ballots to come up, and then a few would mysteriously kind of come up. You might get 5, and then you sit some more and wait for some more to come up. And I was just like, who is running this show? And the individuals who were running this show, I thought it was something interesting about them. They all had on these t-shirts from this organization. And this organization did not appear to be bipartisan at all. And in fact, these workers, because I don't believe they were volunteers, I believe they were getting paid. They all had on shirts, and they were all very, very young, right? And I was like, oh, what a nice, fine group of Marxists you guys look like. Like, the whole process was a joke. It was a joke. It was a complete joke. And this went on for days. And I was just like, is this the recount? Is this what the recount looks like? Because if this is the recount, just throw the whole thing out. I really felt in Georgia that the whole thing needed to be thrown out. It was horrible. And then to hear the governor of our state affirm there's no irregularities, everything is just fine. And then hear the Secretary of State, there's no irregularities, everything was just fine. I was just like, who y'all working for? Like who promised you something that now all of a sudden you can't see irregularities, everything was just fine, and to stop talking about election interference. If you watched my show with Christina Caramo, how she kept saying that GOP officials kept telling her, shh, stop talking about the election. Stop talking about election. Ain't no election got stolen. You talking crazy. Stop talking. That was going on here too. You literally I had people I was connected with on Facebook that I knew were closely connected to Governor Kemp. All of a sudden, were like, there was no interference. I was like, you are a piece of work. Just like that, just out the blue, none. So what I saw is not what I saw, and what all these other people saw, they didn't see that either. And you're trying to convince us that this is a smoke and mirrors? Nah, pimping. No. I'm probably still connected with some of them on Facebook. So if I'm streaming to Facebook now, so if I'm talking to you, you know I'm talking to you. You know who you are, right? Okay, so
against people like you.
So we started and launched a project called the Statesman Project, and our goal is to educate everyday citizens on what to do if they become targets of lawfare, to litigate cases that have a broader impact than an individual one, and activate a brain trust of great legal minds who can come together and help put pieces of the puzzle together from different states. So we're just now launching this. We're super excited about it. Our goal is going to be to raise $10 million so we can set up accounts with second chance bail bonds in these swing states, so people don't have to be concerned about becoming victims of lawfare and not being able to get bailed out or be able to get pretrial legal assistance.
Harrison, you're right in the middle of the weaponization of government. What's some advice to people out there? Because the truth of the matter is you won't be the last, for sure. As a matter of fact, this is just beginning, sadly, unless we the people can stop it. What's your advice to folks out there that might be potential next victims here?
Don't give in, fight back. If you roll over, then, that's what, when I say fight back, I don't mean physically with them. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't, they might allege that you did. Always be respectful, kind, and courteous. Be civil when you're engaging with these folks. But know that if they show up on your doorstep, it's not for a good thing. They want to get you or somebody else in trouble. Contact an attorney immediately. There's no reason to talk or engage with them. Or you can reach out to our project if you need any help. And, most importantly, you're not alone. There have been so many people praying and donating for me, and it's been going such a long way. So just don't give in and roll over and think, you're at their mercy. You're not. They're at ours. We are supposed to be controlling this government, and we will get it back into control.
Your lips to God's ears. Harrison Floyd, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, you guys. So that is basically the update with Harrison Floyd and Fani Willis, things are not looking good, right? She's got these disqualification hearings. Now there's this appeal process. It seems like Rico is her thing. And I'm thinking the reason why Rico appeals, because it's like you can get a whole lot, you can take down a whole lot of people all at one time. But it's the way that she prosecutes. It is so, these cases are not well put together. Like the YSL case, I don't know if you guys are following that. That's a mess. Absolute mess. The witnesses are just, I'm like, if these are your witnesses, honey, we just throw the whole thing away. But with this interference case, we already have the odor of mendacity. We already had Scott McAfee, put the power back in her hands and say, it's either you or your boo. And so boo is gone. Boo, he got his own legal troubles with his wife, and she's trying to lock him up and put him in jail. And then now you have other co-defendants and whistleblowers coming forward, because now the thing is, Jim Jordan has asked for evidence and documents and information surrounding how some federal money that Fulton County District Attorney's Office received and how it was spent. He's like, hey, you need to give a proper accounting for this. And there's a whistleblower who is basically saying that money was not spent on what it was supposed to be spent on. I'm telling you, it was spent on. It was spent on MacBooks and making it and doing this and doing that. And so instead of Fani turning over the documents, she came up with some response like, I'm paraphrasing. She didn't say this. It was basically, I'll get to it when I get to it, right? It's just, the whole thing is a mess. I don't see how this trial can move forward in light of how many co-defendants there are. I don't really think the goal was to ever really move forward. I think this was the cover-up of the cover-up. Like Harrison said, it's like, let's indict all of these people. They're all going to shake in their boots and cower and either cop a plea, or we'll just bankrupt them to where they can't defend themselves. And then the election interference stuff will go away, and I will get all the praise and the glory. And the next thing you know, here I come, Georgia governor's mansion. Like, I really think Fani had or has either the governor's mansion on her mind for the state of Georgia, which absolutely not is not going to happen. I will personally knock on doors myself against that mess, or some other high profile position. I don't know, state AG, maybe attorney general, maybe you just never know. But I think she was trying to be Stacey Abrams 2.0. And if the black men in this state are who I think they are, they're not going to let that happen. Now, I have no hope for the black women of this state. They're so blinded by ethnicity and intersectionality and just DEI foolishness that they will vote against their own interests and don't even realize it's happening. But black men in the state of Georgia, they're the ones that kept us safe from Stacey. So if they can keep us safe from Stacey, they will keep us safe from Fani. My brothers, I know I'm counting on y'all. If that were to happen, if she were to run for governor, the only thing, like I said, I have no hope for the black women, but black men, absolutely. They're going to be like, nah, it's a no for me. So anyway,